Hi, I'm Keomie. I'm 35 years old and my interests are getting my nails done, animals. I live on a farm and I volunteer for the Rodney Animal Rescue, and I love food and going on beach walks, paddleboarding and taking flying lessons. And I've got two beautiful girls. I'm a mum of two beautiful girls, so I was born in New Zealand, and I didn't have the greatest childhood. It was full of trauma. After my dad got back from the Vietnam War, we suffered a lot of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and then following that, when my mum left my dad, I think when we were like 10 years old, things were good, but unfortunately the damage was already done from all the trauma, and we all suffered PTSD, and that eventually ruined like every relationship I've ever had in my life and ruined my family, ripped us apart. And because of that, I moved out of home at 13 years old, then went on living from house to house. I dropped out of school straight away, and all the wrong things that could happen to me did happen. Like, it wasn't the greatest childhood. I was obviously like longing for love in my life and peace, and I found that when I got blessed with my two beautiful daughters at 19 and 25, and they were just amazing, but unfortunately the next 10 years was full of violence. I went into another relationship for the next 4 years. Everything seemed okay, but there was still a level of abuse and violence. And then secrets. I found out later that my partner had hidden from me his drug addiction, his alcohol addiction, and his gambling addiction. And by the time I noticed, he had spent all our savings, all our money, and all our tax money. And then he left the country, and I was left to pick up the pieces. After that, I was lost. I was still disconnected from my mum and feeling very alone and just needing support. That's when my life took a big turn for the worst and turned upside down. And the only way I can really describe it is it was a tornado of destruction. This time about 4 years ago, my two daughters were kidnapped by their father and taken out of Auckland and never returned. It was traumatizing, to say the least. 2 years go by with no contact or supervised visits or phone calls, and I get a court date, but in this court date I lose all custody. They give me no rights. And after that, my grief and depression just sunk in on another level, and I ended up turning to drugs to numb the pain. I went on a sickness benefit and then went on suicide watch by my doctor because I lost the will to live. I miss my children so much. Like, every day I miss them. They're just so precious and so special. I had literally at this point lost everything in my life. It was a really dark time for me. Jesus is definitely in my life now. And I know that I think Jesus definitely planted a seed of hope in me a few years back, and I truly believe that it was his gift of hope that got me through my storms, because it was the only thing that I held on to. Without Jesus' love and that hope, I don't think I would have come through it and seen the end. And because of that hope, I know Jesus was there right from the start, and I know that he's here now, and he's waited, and he's been just by my side, and he's waited till I've opened that door and got to know him and made that choice to follow him. I think the big critical part in my faith journey has been getting to know who Jesus is learning about his love and his trust and his wisdom, and wanting that in my life. I'm really building a new foundation for myself and for my family, with God right there at the bottom and holding us together. I now surround myself with beautiful people, and I've reconnected with my mum, and I've reconnected with my children, which is just the most beautiful thing that could ever happen. And I've got, a church now that I can call, a second home and a second family. And I love everybody here at Gracegate. Everyone is just so amazing. And I think the biggest or the most welcoming part about Gracegate was no perfect person was allowed. Everyone was welcomed and everyone was so welcoming. That made such a difference. Also, being a part of the Starting Point group, just learning about who Jesus was and getting to ask questions in that group really, really helps. Yeah, without that group, I don't think I would have made it this far with my faith. Yeah, I love being part of Gracegate, and I think for me, a big part of my faith journey also has been picking up the Bible and reading it, getting to know Jesus' word and his teachings and his wisdom. I don't want my old life anymore, and I want a new life, and I could see Jesus paves the path to having a good life, and I want a good life, and he's really helped me structure my life to have core values that I can live by and feel safe and protected and nurtured, and I know I'm not going to be alone, and that God is always going to be with me. So my favorite scripture is from Jeremiah 29:11, that goes, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And I know God's purpose for me is love, and to be loved, to give love, and to know what love is again. And I love having love back in my life. I just would like to say a big thank you to Danelle and Lindsay, and I also want to say thanks to everybody else in my group, Alex, Dom, Leith, and Patrick. Yeah, thank you guys. For all your support and all your sharing. It's been quite a journey, and thank you for journeying with me. And thank you to our pastors as well, Wesley and Zalia. Yeah, for anyone new or thinking about following Jesus or new to the church, I'd highly recommend getting to know Jesus on a personal level. He is amazing, and he's full of love and forgiveness. He's taught me how to forgive. He's taught me how to love again. He's taught me how to be kind. And I know if somebody else chose to have Jesus in their life, just know that you're not going to be alone, that he's always going to be there with you, and know that you don't have to struggle doing life by yourself anymore. Being baptized is the next step in my faith journey, as I've chosen to follow Jesus, and I want to be a part of God's family, and I want God's family to know that I want to be a part, and that I'm leaving my old life behind and starting a new life with God